Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 20 of Maps and Graps. If you can't tell, I am exhausted. But I am your host, Lyric Swinton, as always. Obviously, it's been a huge weekend, a life changing weekend. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later in the show. But yeah, all in weekend was just happened. I was in London for the festivities and it lived up to all of the hype. I'm so happy that I was there. So happy that this is now a tradition so I can go back next year on the bank holiday. It's going to be awesome. But without any further ado, let's just get into a recap. Obviously, there's been a lot of wrestling that's been happening, some of which I have not caught up on yet. For example, like Trinity and Deanna's match at Emergence. Haven't gotten to watch that yet, but that will be watched this week. Um, what else? The Royal Road tournament just concluded over at All Japan. Haven't been able to really dive into that. I saw that Satoshi Kojima won, which is he's having one hell of a summer. Absolutely incredible. So there's been a lot of stuff going on, but I just need to, talk about all the great stuff that's been happening with RevPro and AEW and also for Wrestling Noah because the N1 is coming to a close on September 3rd. And so without any further ado, let's get into it. So the RevPro meet and greet on Saturday was absolutely awesome. I got to meet so many of my faves, as you see. Shingo Takagi, Will Ospreay, the Billy Goat, Mickey James, Zack Sabre Jr., and of course, my wrestler, the wrestler, Katsuyori Shibata. That was unreal. And I actually got to hold the ROH Pure title, which is very, very heavy. But also that New Japan World TV Championship is so heavy. I don't see well, obviously, like they're wrestlers, they work out all the time, so maybe that's why they could carry. But gosh, those belts are heavy. But yeah, just the meet and greet over at Copper Box was just such a it was just like a buzzing energy. Everybody was just so happy to be there. It was pretty organized, even though they did start a little bit late. Just shout out to RevPro. I think that the fan experience that they provided this weekend was just bar none. I didn't feel like I was going to see an indie promotion at all. It felt like I was seeing a top guy, and it was awesome. And moving on in Rev Pro to the fun stuff was the actual matches. So this show, from top to bottom, I know that me and Charlie talked about it last week, but this card was absolutely immaculate on paper, and it's absolutely delivered in person. The pre-show had a women's battle royal. There were Danny Luna ended up winning, which was awesome because she has been killing it all over the world. A lot of people, if you might be familiar with her work in Impact recently, the subculture coming to Impact and really taking over. But she's been absolutely incredible, and there was a surprise entrant, also Sky Blue from All Elite Wrestling, and that was just such a huge pop, and the crowd loved it. And shout out to Sky Blue for continuing to go out into the indies and get those reps. I think that that's what's going to separate her from some of her peers as she continues on her wrestling career of being hungry and always wanting more opportunities. And so that was awesome. Obviously, we had that amazing tag match. Shibata and El Fantasmo versus David Finley and Gabe Kidd. You had Michael Oku defeat Trent Seven and finally get his actual belt back, even though he's always been the undisputed British heavyweight champion. Amira took the coolest, wildest pile driver I've ever seen in my entire life, and she just deserves her props. Like I said it on Twitter, she adds so much to his matches. We need more female managers in wrestling. She just does it all, and like she was absolutely awesome. Obviously, we found out like the next day that she was a part of the MJF entrance at All In, so she's had a very busy weekend. Shout out to Amira, she's absolutely incredible. That pile driver in an evening gown and heels was nuts. And I'm going to get into my favorite matches a little bit later on, but I just wanted to talk about how shout out to Rev Pro, like in addition to fan experience, like this show is just so well paced. So many surprises ended up happening. Um towards the end, you have Will Ospreay giving this super heartfelt speech, and then suddenly Chris Jericho comes in and makes a appearance really in a mask, all in 2018 style, like when he originally attacked Kenny Omega, and that was so poetic. And then Aussie Open runs out to make the save, and it was just awesome. Like it was just so many different worlds colliding. It was absolutely incredible. But I'm going to get back into my favorite matches later. Just wanted to speed through some of the top moments of the weekend. Obviously, All In, you know what I came for. I was there obviously doing media, but I was also there as a fan. Like we had seats from the pre-sale on, so I got to actually be on the floor for this one. This was the Golden Elite versus Takeshita and Bullet Club Gold. And listen, just merely seeing these guys was enough for me. Like I don't think they could have just sat there on the turnbuckle and I would have popped regardless. Seeing Kota Ibushi live was amazing. Seeing the Golden Lovers live was amazing. Seeing Hangman and Kenny team together was amazing. Just seeing any variation of these guys is amazing. Obviously, the Golden Lovers gear gagged me, made me sob, made me emotional. All of the things. I am happy. I am content. I am well. Um, there's no better way to put it. I was absolutely ecstatic. Hangman, I'm so excited for him to get back into singles matches. He's been absolutely incredible. Takeshita is a star. I've said it before, but we're looking at the first ever Japanese AEW World Champion. One day in Bullet Club Gold, they just deserve it all. Like they've been carrying Collision. They have literally made every single thing that they've touched turn to gold. Literally, shout out to Jay White, specifically to Juice Robinson, who has been, I would say, just like that workhorse of Collision, and the Guns have really hit their stride in Bullet Club Gold. And so this moment was awesome for me. I loved every single second. Next, the Bucks versus FTR 3. Obviously, we knew that this match was going to be excellent, and it didn't disappoint. This I've never seen the Bucks compete in a big tag match live, because every time that I've seen them in pay-per-view, they've typically been in like trios matches with either Kenny or Hangman. And so this was awesome. Like this is awesome to finally get a big Bucks entrance, hear that super kick party. It was amazing. I actually ended up taking some of the streamers that were blowing everywhere. That was awesome. I actually took some home with me. Um, I love the Freddie Mercury cosplay gear. Obviously, like the shatter machines going back and forth between them and FTR was awesome. These two teams just never disappoint together. It was just awesome. Obviously, Will Ospreay is the MVP of the weekend of wrestling two incredibly like physical matches back to back. Shingo Takagi on Saturday, and then Chris Jericho on Sunday. This was a huge coming out party for him. This whole year has been a huge coming out party for him. I would say since January 4th with that first Kenny Omega match, and then obviously the rematch in Toronto. In about a little over 2 months, he has defeated Kenny Omega, Kazuchika Okada, Shingo Takagi, and Chris Jericho. You want to talk about a world beater? That's it. It was just really cool to just know what that meant to him. Like his comments at the RevPro show were just really emotional, and just talks about like his journey, and it's hard to believe that he's only 30, and that he's already just done so much for British wrestling, and just seeing Will Ospreay in the UK is just a different experience. I think seeing everybody on their home turf, just like I felt like seeing Kenny in Canada was just like a different experience, and just seeing Will Ospreay in the UK was just incredible. Hearing Elevated live not once but twice in one weekend was insane. It was just, yeah, shout out to the Billy Goat. He's been killing it. And he's nowhere near as good as he's going to be, which is scary, but that's where we are, folks. Shout out to Hikaru Shida. Obviously, she did not retain at the All In show. However, what she means to that division, what she means to me, is just like it's hard to put it into words. It's I'm just really happy that she did get to go into Wembley as champion. Nobody deserves it more. Um, and she just continues to set that bar, and she continues to be the ace, and she's just so valuable, just so valuable. And I really hope that this string of like this next run in AEW for her is just completely different and just awesome and incredible, and she gets to do things that she's never done before and just really push the limits of her talent. Like, I love Sheeta. She is, I would say, probably the most important figure in the women's division. Like, she just makes everything better. And so shout out to Sheeta. I'm really happy just that she exists. Moving on. Listen, Sting. I was already in a funky mood because she did lost the title, but I will say I did crack a smile um, when Sting came out to his entrance with Joker Sting was nuts. Um, the Seek and Destroy from by Metallica. Oh my gosh. Swerve looked like a star here. I should have put a picture of that up, but he looked like a mega star. He looked like he could probably main event the next one of these. Hearing 80,000 plus people chant Swerve's house was nuts. But Sting and Darby obviously get the win here in this coffin match. It did what it was supposed to do. I I don't want to imagine pro wrestling without Sting. Um, I was introduced to him through TNA, and so for most of my wrestling life, he has been a part of it. Um, and as somebody, I hadn't even seen much of his WCW stuff, but like he's been just such a big part of wrestling, and this AEW run has just been booked amazingly. It's been perfect, and it's been befitting of a legend of his stature. And we're just so lucky that he still wants to do this, and I'm just thankful, just really thankful for Sting and that he's still in wrestling. And I can't even imagine wrestling without him. And so that was great. In the main event, listen, I have been a huge Maxwell Jacob Friedman hater during this title run. Because let's just be honest, guys, a lot of it hasn't been good. The matches have been great. Always. I'm never going to discount the matches. Never going to discount the matches. But he only wrestled once every blue moon. So like you'll have like months go by, you only have 2 matches to show for it, but you have all these 30-minute promos that didn't land. However, this summer, I think the MJF has finally become the guy that everybody knew he could be. And coincidentally, is not as this crazy sadistic heel that he wanted to be. I think like a lot of people, including him, had to let go of his expectations of what a champion should look like. Like a lot of times people aren't looking for this monster or crazy heel anymore. Like people want characters they can relate to and they can sink their teeth into. Like think about somebody like Hangman of just like this super relatable person. And so he's really hit his stride. And I think so is Adam Cole. This is the best that Adam Cole has looked since he got to AEW. This was the best both of them has looked in this feud. Starting with that match that they originally had and everything that's happened since. They have incredible chemistry. They had me locked in from dusk to dawn, from the 0 Hour show, them winning the ROH tag belts, which I wasn't expecting. That kangaroo kick could have if Wembley had a roof, that kangaroo kick would have blown the roof off the place. No joke. And so, wow, it was just absolutely insane. And then they come back into the main event. Listen, that was drama. Y'all want to talk about those super dramatic main event styles? Now that was cinema. Like I was constantly like on the edge of my seat. Will they? Won't they? Who's going to turn? The chair spot, so good. Both of them look like stars. This was a huge crowning moment. And honestly, I think this is a moment of pride for AEW to say that their homegrown talent got the biggest pop of the night by a landslide. And so I can confirm, like, the biggest pops of the night, I would probably say, was obviously MJF by far, maybe like obviously Adam Cole, Eddie Kingston got a huge ovation as always. Of course, Sting. Um, but yeah, MJF was by far the biggest, most over person of the night, which is something to be proud of for AEW. Um, the homegrown talent period and day one's definitely got like those big pops, and so that was something super be proud of. Like, they killed it, and I'm glad that this is going to continue because obviously the story has so much more juice. Shout out to Roderick Strong, who plays the score and delivers so well. He is the best part. Him in that neck break. We don't deserve Roderick Strong. He's been killing it, the way that like the Kingdom had to comfort him. Like, he plays his part so well. It's so amazing. I I love Roderick Strong. He is found. I love when like wrestlers find their thing and they just overperform and blow it out of the park. Like, he should not be this entertaining. He should not, but he is, and so that's where we are. But shout out to Better Than You, Baby. And also, like, let's just be real. Like, these two are not the stereotypical size for like your typical, wrestling main eventer. We're used to like these 6'4" bodybuilders, like type guys, and like these guys don't look like that, especially like somebody like Adam Cole. And I think that this was a signal that at the biggest wrestling show of all time, size doesn't matter. Like, like, it just talent and um talent, just, yeah, talent matters, period. And Adam Cole, when he taps into his bag, like that devious bag, you can't tell me he's not like Thanos. Like, I'm sorry, like, he has like huge 7'5" energy. I don't know, like, Adam Cole is him. Listen, and Max is finding his way, and obviously he was in the first match of the first ever All In, and being in the last match of the first match and the last match of the first ever AEW All In was very fitting and a huge moment for the company, I think, moving forward. And I hope to see more homegrown stars like that continue to blossom and grow under the banner of this big All In show. And obviously next year will be another opportunity to do exactly that. And of course, I did put these out of order. I didn't mean to, but that Stadium Stampede show match was a hoot, an absolute hoot. Orange Cassidy, man, the king, AEW's unsung hero. I just loved it. Like, Sue popping up in the minivan and, like, giving a tray of cookies. Trent and Chuck are doing crazy stuff. Penta going backstage, coming back as Penta's girl with a different entrance, a different fit. John Moxley and the Blackpool Combat Club coming out dressed like Men in Black with the shades and the jackets. Eddie Kingston just going straight after Claudio as he does. And like, him and Mox just arguing as you see. Oh my gosh, it was just perfect. It was just perfect. Obviously, the only qualm I had about it is that for a Stadium Stampede, it was not all over the stadium as I expected. But you know what? Wembley is huge. So I'm going to be honest. I don't know how they would have theoretically done that. So you know what? I was pleased. Shout out to Stadium Stampede. It was a blast. I did very much so enjoy myself. And so going back to my matches of the weekend. So I want to start with the RevPro show. This is the matches, my favorite matches of the weekend. Obviously, I said earlier, El Phantasmo and Katsuyori Shibata versus Gabriel Kidd and David Finlay. Listen, this match was awesome. I knew it was going to be awesome. Obviously, El Phantasmo and David Finlay have their own history ever since David Finlay was responsible for kicking El Phantasmo out of Bullet Club and having everybody turn on him. But the real story here was obviously Gabriel Kidd and Shibata. Gabriel Kidd has been trying to prove that he's better than his mentor and that, he can go head to head. And obviously, he was ducking and dodging Shibata throughout this match. And then the wrestler did what the wrestler does and just, schooled him. This is a big money match down the line, in my opinion, for New Japan Pro Wrestling. I hope that my hope is that they run it at Royal Quest 3, which has recently just been announced for Copper Box Arena in October. But I think that this is one of the matches that is paramount for the career of Gabriel Kidd. And out of all the young lions, I think the former young lions, I think that he is primed to deliver against the wrestler. And I'm excited. So I hope that they run this. This match was great. This tag match was great. I would love to see this. If they decide to run this back in New Japan at any point, you would hear no complaints from me. Ricky Knight Jr. versus Zack Sabre Jr. Listen, this match rocked. Like, it just rocked. Zack Sabre Jr. is just amazing at what he does. He's such an incredible technical wrestler, but every time I see Ricky Knight Jr., he never disappoints. And this match was a fight, and I loved everything about it. I hope that after this weekend, Ricky Knight got some looks from some very important people, because he is extremely talented, and I think he has a very bright future ahead of him if he's, placed in the right places. And so I am super excited for his career. And him and Zack Sabre Jr. had incredible chemistry. I would love to see them run this match back at some point. Will Ospreay versus Shingo Takagi. Ooh, these two never disappoint. I've always said that Will Ospreay and Shingo Takagi are wrestling soulmates. They're each other's best opponents. And they never miss. Their matches average a 5.45. And so stars, and it makes sense because they never miss. Obviously, they came into this match of just like, we know what y'all came to see, and they just immediately go at it from bell to bell. These two are just absolutely incredible. Two of my faves. And also for me personally, this match was a reminder, hopefully, to New Japan Pro Wrestling. I hope Gato was back there looking that putting Shingo Takagi anywhere other than the main event is a waste of his time and talent. He's him. He is in his 40s, performing at the highest level possible for any professional wrestler. Like I said, I put him up there with the Omegas, Okadas, Danielsons, Ospreys of the world. He is that good of a professional wrestler, and I hope that he has started to be used as a main event level talent, a top of the card, singles run, title type talent. Even though I will say the possibility of a tag team between him and Yota Tsuji is intriguing to me. But I do want to see more singles Shingo, because he's just that good. He never misses. He just never misses. And him and Will Ospreay together definitely never miss. Incredible stuff. Moving on to All In. Obviously, Bucks versus FTR was incredible. Was it their best match out of their trilogy? No. But it was good. It was great, and it was still befitting of the occasion, and I stand. And I think that obviously there's more juice left to this orange. And so I loved it. And like, that's also the thing when you're the Bucks and FTR, when you've had so many great matches, it's hard to top them all. But as long as they keep performing to like that super high standard, which I feel like they did, I feel like it's, all good, all is good. And then obviously Adam Cole versus MJF, that main event. Obviously, I was skeptical about this main event originally. I was like, is this story hot enough to main event the biggest wrestling show of all time? But yes, it was 100%. It definitely was. If you didn't hear those crowd reactions, then I don't know what else to tell you. Like, it was definitely hot enough. And it was a good choice. And I'm a fan. I'm a fan of that match. And it was emotional. I went back and rewatched it, and it was awesome. And I'm excited to see what's next for Better Than You, baby. But the best match of the weekend, by far, hands down, Luke Jacobs versus Tomohiro Ishii. Now, let me tell you, I didn't know. because Ishii was in the match, I just knew it was going to be good. But I had never seen Luke Jacobs wrestle, and I also keep in mind there were other matches on the card that I was more excited for. For example, like the tag match, Osprey versus Shingo, JJ Gill versus Kosei Fujita, Leon Slater versus Dan Maloney, which and all these matches were good. Don't get me wrong, all these matches were good. I didn't feel disappointed at all. However, this right here stole the show off rip. These two beat the living shit out of each other. Wow, like it got Luke Jacobs was definitely, and a lot of people have said this, watching him, it was a callback to if you've ever seen like some of the old Walter, aka Gunther, matches from like, the late 2010s. That's what I was getting of just like this big European guy, heavy handed, just killing it. Wow. And Tomohiro Ishii, listen, he's always good. He's always an unsung hero, but I don't know what it is about the UK, but he comes alive. Like he just becomes alive. He felt like a world champion, world beater in this match. And wow. Like it was just wow. I went back and I rewatched it last night and absolutely breathtaking match. Like the crowd was into it. I think I stood up for most of it. It was just absolutely incredible. A match of the year candidate for me. Like it's definitely going to be in like my top 10 this year. And that's saying a lot because I feel like so many matches that could be in my top 10, but like, man, listen, this one just definitely earned its spot. If you didn't see this match, go watch it on RevPro It is worth every single minute of your time. You will thank me later. And if I said this during the event, if I'm ghetto, as soon as Luke Jacobs came through that curtain, I'm offering him a spot on the next New Japan tour. This man is incredible, and I'm giving Ishii a raise because this man is incredible, and the fact that he is in his late 40s performing to this high caliber is absolutely insane. But I'm thankful for it. That was my match of the weekend. That was one of my matches of the year. And I am just blessed and proud that I was able to watch that live because it was absolutely incredible. And so happy that I was there. And so moving on to Pro Wrestling Noah, the N1 block matches ended this weekend. Obviously, we had to decide A block, Keno versus Jake Lee. Keno gets the victory, and he actually got me to enjoy a Jake Lee match. So that's a dub. Obviously, we had the highly anticipated Axis match. Most highly anticipated by me, Katsuhiko Nakajima versus Go Shiozaki. They wrestled each other in their Axis gear, with Nakajima having Axis taped on his wrist, as always. Just lovely, putting me in the feels. So it was a sign that no matter what happened, they were going to stay together, which is great news for me because my nerves were shot. Amazing match. I loved it. As always, I love those matches between those two. Go Shiozaki got the win with one of the best lariats I've ever seen in my entire life. But because of that, Go Shiozaki and Manabu Soya ended up tied in the points, so they had to have a sudden death impromptu main event. Shiozaki versus Manabu Soya. Shiozaki wins. I do want to give a shout out to Manabu Soya. I had never seen him as a singles wrestler before this tournament. Obviously, he had been teaming with Keno. He's been a member of Congo, kind of like a background player. When I first started watching Noah, but obviously Congo is dissolved and Manabu Soya went out on his own. He originally won the N1 Rumble. He beat Katsuhiko Nakajima on night one. And he's just been absolutely excellent in this tournament. He also beat El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr. I think this night. And I need to see him actually challenge for the GHC National Championship. Wagner Jr. has had an incredible run as national champion. But if anybody's going to take it off of him, I am now convinced. I'm now sold. I want Manabu Soya to be the next GHC national champion. And so I'm a huge fan and of his work during this N1 tournament. And he has really cemented himself as, I would think, a top star in Noah. And it's been just an absolute pleasure to watch his matches. Moving forward, obviously on September 3rd, we have the big match, the N1 finals. I'm super excited. These are two of my faves. So we have Kino versus Go Shiozaki. Obviously, there's a lot of history here. Earlier this year, Katsuhiko Nakajima leaves Congo to get back with Go Shiozaki and reform Axis. Obviously, Congo did not survive much longer afterwards and just Kino dissolves it completely at his 15th anniversary show. There's just a lot of history there. Kino has been on a huge, crazy run this year. I would say he's been like the face of Noah, I would say. And he's absolutely been killing it. And so obviously he's been a favorite going into this tournament to be the winner. However, Go Shiozaki has been finally hit his groove since he's come back from injury. Listen, he defeated Katsuhiko Nakajima and Manabu Soya on the same night. Mr. I Am Noah is back. And one thing that he's never done is win the N1 tournament. He's never won. He's done just about everything there is to do in Noah, but he's never won that tournament. And so a lot of them, both of them have a lot on the line here. And also for Jake Lee specifically, for Jake Lee has basically beat all of the Noah top guys except for these two. So he hasn't beaten Kano. Obviously, Kano pinned him on the last night of the block matches. And so whether Kano wins this title or not, wins the final or not, he has a claim to a title match for the GHC Heavyweight Championship. And Jake Lee has never beaten Go Shiozaki. Hasn't faced him yet. And so there's so much on the line here. I'm going to be on the edge of my seat. I cannot wait. The card is actually pretty stacked for this show. And so I'm super excited. That is something to watch. And so keep your eyes on Pro Wrestling Noah. It's about to get very, 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 very interesting over in the land of the Ark. And finally, I did want to end on this. So some of you who follow me on a regular basis may follow me on a regular basis, and some of you might be new to my show, and you probably are introduced to me because I asked the last question at the All In Media Scrum to Tony Khan, and I asked about the lack of women's matches on the card. Listen, this is what I have to say about it. And so, one, I'm just really thankful to have gotten that opportunity. This is my second media scrum, and I got to do the Forbidden Door scrum too, and I've just been really, really blown away with how quickly I have been able to get opportunities in professional wrestling. It's been a dream of mine for years, and I feel like I've only just now pulled the trigger on myself to actually give myself a shot in this and like start writing and stuff and start, podcasting, hosting and traveling. And it's been an absolute dream. And two, I would just like to say that I love AEW. It's no secret. Obviously, I flew across the world to see them. I've gone to 2 different countries this year to see AEW. And so because I love AEW, I'm going to hold AEW accountable. And so like, I love wrestling. I love professional wrestling, and that includes women's wrestling. And so I'm always going to advocate for it. And so, hey, I love AEW. And what I mean by that is that because I love AEW, whenever I'm in that room, I'm going to ask what needs to be asked, and I'm going to say what needs to be said, and hold them accountable as far as it comes to women's wrestling. Because, like, for me personally, I don't like to talk about women's wrestling as if it's a unicorn. Like, women's wrestling is wrestling, and so I feel like, at least for me, like with my platform, What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about women's wrestling with the same enthusiasm that I talk about everything else, and talk about women's wrestlers with the same enthusiasm that I show everybody else, because it is wrestling. And so, yeah, so I am going to always say what needs to be said. Like, I come from environments, like male dominated environments. So I'm always, even though I may not like it, I'm used to, sometimes being the only woman in the room, a lot of times being the only black person in the room, definitely most times being the only black woman in the room. And so, although it's not ideal, hey, I accept that responsibility and will always say what needs to be said. I appreciate a lot of the support that I've been getting. And I know, like, there's some people who say, like, oh, yeah, well, instead of advocating for this, like, you could just go and watch the actual other women's wrestling that's happening. And guess what? I do. And that's why I watch Stardom. That's why I keep up with the knockouts. That is why I watch all sorts of women's wrestling all over the world. And you can go check all the articles I've written about, the amazing wrestling that's been happening in Stardom, happening in Ring of Honor. Also, the new addition of women's matches to Pro Wrestling Noah. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. Just highlight the great stuff that actually is happening, rather than just grift about the things that aren't happening. I feel like there has to be a balance of both, of, uplifting what is happening while also advocating for what's not happening. And so, when mainstream American women's wrestling has a long way to go. And I think, like, it's everybody's job, not just women, but I think men and anybody with a position of power, to continue to advocate for growth. And so that's what I have to say about it. I'm thankful and grateful for, the opportunity to, ask a question, and hopefully, I'll have more opportunities in the future. But yeah, I'm ready to work. And so I'm excited for, just being able to, talk about what I love, which is professional wrestling, and just keep talking about it on a, hopefully, on a continued growing scale. And I love talking about professional wrestling that's happening all over the world, because the world is so much bigger than just AEW, just like it's bigger than just WWE. Like, I feel like we have to highlight everything, but the people in the promotions with the biggest platform should always be pressed to, showcase the diversity and the beauty of the diversity of pro wrestling, across racial, gender, sexual orientation, um, just everything. And so, that's how I feel about it. This has been a magical weekend. No amount of grifting will ever take that away from me. Obviously, I'm still exhausted. And then when I first got back, I had to go straight to class. And then I had class on the next day. And so it's just been like, ah! But I'm finally snapping back. And it's been an awesome time. And I'm just so excited to continue to do this. I am probably going to take a little break after All Out. And by little break, I actually do mean little, like only a few weeks, unless like something crazy, dramatic, drastic happens. Just so I can adjust back to, the semester. But it's just been a blast. I have loved learning about professional wrestling alongside all of you. And I've loved, sharing my love for professional wrestling with all of you. So I am excited for more. And I look forward to talking all out next week, because I'm excited for that card. Obviously, Katsuyori Shibata and Eddie Kingston versus Claudio Castagnoli and Willer Yuta was added to the card, as well as Kenny Omega versus Takeshita. And those two matches alone are worth the price of admission for me. So, super exciting stuff. And we'll talk about the Noah finals next week. And yeah, super grateful just for all the love and support that I've been getting. And if you want to keep up with me and all the stuff that I'm doing, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Lyric Wrestling. And you can subscribe to this podcast. You can watch our weekly Joshi show on Women's Wrestling Talk, Rising Sun Rundown on Thursdays at 5 p.m. EST. But until next time, guys, talk to you later. Bye.